Hello there, I'm Lina Ahmedou in for Esther Gitui-Ewart. It's Friday, August 5th. This is Africa 54.
Kenya, East Africa's economic powerhouse, holds elections on Tuesday to select a new president. Frustrated by corruption and skyrocketing prices, many voters want change. Senegal's ruling coalition loses its absolute majority in parliament, a result that likely reflects growing acrimony toward President Macky Sall. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken launches a three-country tour of Africa on Sunday, starting in South Africa. He's expected to deliver a major speech on U.S. strategy for Sub-Saharan Africa.
Kenya is set to hold elections on Tuesday to select a new president, parliament, county governors, and assemblies. President Uhuru Kenyatta is stepping down after serving his constitutionally allowed 10 years. Many voters say they want change and are frustrated by corruption and skyrocketing food and fuel prices. Young voters appear to be particularly disenchanted, and some say they may not even vote. For much more on Tuesday's poll, I am joined by Africa 54 Managing Editor Vincent Makori, who is live in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. Hello, Vincent. Vincent, are you there? Okay, we are waiting for... Okay, we have a little technical difficulty here. We will have Vincent Makori in a few moments. And in a few moments, we'll have Vincent Makori. It's time to continue our series, We Are Kenyans. VOA Swahili spoke to several citizens about their current challenges and their hopes for the incoming president. Here is our feature on Marketing Officer Lydia Ntenya.
I would say it's job creation. I remember when they came in as a government, they promised us job opportunities, especially for youths, something we've not seen. So they failed us big time because we are out here hustling and trying to make ends. At the same time, they are pushing us to pay taxes, something it's too difficult for us to do. You're wondering if you're going to pay your house chores, bills, or you're going to pay the government because it's really hustling. I mean, it's so tough out here. So they failed us in jobs as youths. And one more thing about power, the electricity, especially the upcountry, you find it's just too dark. You go to other places, it depends on where you come from. I think they were too choosy on where to take power to, especially where I come from, Makueni. We've not seen power. We have the post PS, but nothing has been done for the last 10 years, and it's only a few days to go, and so we still don't have power. We just depend on solar. We expect to see changes, especially education-wise, because with this government, the current government, we've seen so much confusion. CBC 844 publishers being told to just hold on, because I remember when they introduced the CBC, especially for the grade, the standard 7, there was changes. They started the CBC, but in between there was a change, like they had to go back to 844. So we expect the incoming government just to stand still with the CBC, because we see it is really good okay, in as much as it's time-consuming, it is really good. And we expect them to support so much on the education for the CBC. So let's not have like a double-minded government, like we are here, we are there. No, we don't want that. Let's start with CBC. Secondly, in terms of health, please let the government look at the doctors and the nurses, because they do a lot for us. Especially if you see what they did with the COVID, they did a lot. They sacrificed a lot. So we expect them to focus also on the health workers and support them in case of increment and all that. It's too unfortunate. This year I am not voting for anyone, because every time you go vote, whatever you've been promised, it never comes out. And that's why this time around I said I'm not going to vote. I foresee and I pray for a peaceful election. We've seen a lot of post-violence election, and of course the world is looking at Kenya. So let's see, give them a different picture of this country. We have a peaceful election. Whoever wins, we support him. Whoever loses, we support the winner, and all that. Let's not have a rerun, because again, that is another cost. So let's have a peaceful election, and the turnout. Let's turn out there and vote, and just choose a good leader.
Now we have Africa 54 Managing Editor Vincent Makori. Vincent, thank you so much for joining us. Today is the second last day of the campaign. What are the candidates focusing on at this point?
Well, you know, first I have to mention that it is the second last day of the campaigns today, Friday. The two leading candidates held the rallies in areas that they consider either strongholds or really favorable to them. The candidate, William Ruto, was in the central region of Kenya, which is actually one of the strongholds, holding his second last campaign. On the other hand, the campaign of Raila Odinga was in the coastal city of Mombasa, where he held a large rally there to try and woo the last voters who probably haven't changed, or rather yet to decide on who to vote for. Now, we need to realize that the campaigns end officially on Saturday, tomorrow. The two leading candidates have planned to hold their very last rallies here in Nairobi tomorrow on Saturday at different venues.
Now, you mentioned Deputy President William Ruto. He made some very serious accusations against the government, talking about sabotage. How is this situation evolving, and what is the government saying?
Well, indeed, these are serious allegations, especially coming at this particular time when it's just a few days before the elections. You see, he's actually accusing the outgoing president of planning to disrupt the elections. He has accused him of using government officials, government workers to disrupt the elections, and even right now to sort of interfere in the process. And these are very, very serious charges. But let me tell you this, it's not a new accusation. In the previous election, it was Raila Odinga who at that time did not have the endorsement of Uhuru Kenyatta. At that time, he was actually on the opposite side, who accused the government of using government officials to probably interfere with the process. So it's not necessarily a very new accusation, but the way that Mr. William Ruto is making these very scathing attacks against the outgoing president is very different, and some are starting to have issues with what that can have as implications come next week. But the government on the other side is saying there's nothing like that. President Uhuru Kenyatta has refuted those kind of claims, and also the person that he has endorsed, Mr. Raila Odinga, is saying there's no way that they're using the government to help disrupt the elections in any way, that they're planning to have a clear, clean, credible election and let the man who manages to get the numbers win the elections.
Okay, thank you so much, Vincent. That was Vincent Makori reporting live from Nairobi, Kenya. Now, Senegal's Electoral Commission says the ruling coalition Benno Bokk Yakaar has lost its absolute majority in parliament. The result likely reflects a growing acrimony towards President Macky Sall, David Doyle reports.
Senegal's ruling Benno Bokk Yakaar has lost its comfortable majority in parliament, the Electoral Commission said on Thursday. In provisional results, President Macky Sall's coalition secured just 2 more seats than 2 allied opposition coalitions in a legislative election at the weekend. At 82 out of 165 seats, that left Benno Bokk Yakaar 1 shy of an absolute majority. However, main opposition coalition Yewi Askanwi has said it will not accept the outcome, citing alleged voting irregularities in the country's north. Opposition leader Ousmane Sonko said the ruling coalition would try to steal the result and urged his supporters to defend the vote by all means. In the last legislative election in 2017, Benno Bokk Yakaar took 125 seats, or 3/4 of parliament. The loss of 43 seats in this poll reflects growing public anger towards Sall. That's fueled in part by his refusal to rule out breaching presidential term limits and running for a 3rd time in 2024. Frustration has also been stoked by economic hardship linked to the global health crisis and rising fuel and food prices.
That was David Doyle of Reuters reporting. The U.S. ambassador to the United Nations say African nations are free to buy grain from Russia, but could face consequences if they trade in U.S. sanctioned commodities, such as Russian oil. Linda Thomas Greenfield spoke in Kampala after meeting with Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni. Uganda is the U.S. diplomat's first stop on the African tour. Thomas Greenfield also announced an aid package for Uganda.
Tonight, I'm pleased to announce that the United States will provide an additional $20 million to help Uganda to expand investments in fertilizer, grains, and other crops with the goal of increasing resilience to future shocks.
Thomas Greenfield's trip to Africa comes a week after Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov visited several countries on the continent. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken launches a 3-country tour of Africa on Sunday in South Africa. He is expected to deliver a major speech outlining U.S. President Joe Biden's strategy for Sub-Saharan Africa. Experts tell VOA that human rights concerns are likely to be high on the agenda. VOA's senior diplomatic correspondent Sidi Sane reports.
For the 2nd time as the top U.S. diplomat, Secretary of State Antony Blinken is visiting Africa. He is set to give a major speech in South Africa, laying out the Biden administration's strategy for Sub-Saharan Africa. Joseph Saney of the United States Institute of Peace says he expects Blinken to say he has come to listen to African-led solutions to the continent's challenges.
We are there to say what are the existing solutions and how can we support. So we are not leading the way, which is very important, because the minute you jump in to lead the way, you suck the oxygen in the room and then you kill creativity.
Food insecurity, agribusiness, and opportunities for the region's large population of young people are likely to be high on the agenda. And recent fighting in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo has escalated tensions between the Rwandan and DRC governments, and the DRC has accused Rwanda of supporting the M23 armed group. As Nicole Wittersheim of Human Rights Watch tells VOA via Skype.
Violence has increased. Civilians are getting killed in Eastern DRC. We want to see the U.S. government get agreement by Rwanda and Uganda to stop supporting the M23 forces in the east that are fomenting violence. So we hope that that's on the agenda, and we're glad that Secretary Blinken is going to go to Rwanda and DRC. DRC also has an important election coming up.
Engaging with leaders in Kinshasa and Kigali is the right move, says Michael O'Hanlon of the Brookings Institution.
I think if Blinken explains that America's support for each country is going to be partly contingent on their improvement of their democratic and human rights and anti-crime, anti-corruption efforts, then it's a perfectly reasonable thing for him to go and deliver those kind of messages.
Blinken's visit comes on the heels of an Africa tour by Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, who blamed the grain shortage and acute food insecurity on Western sanctions on Moscow rather than Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Russia is winning the public opinion battle with its disinformation campaign in Africa, Saini says.
But it is important for the United States and the West to up their game in terms of informing Africans and African countries. I think to set the record straight.
Saini says it will take more than one speech by Secretary Blinken to counter Russia's disinformation campaign. But recent visits by high-level U.S. diplomats are a good start. Cindy Sain, VOA News.
In a new report, the UN Security Council says that Rwanda has intervened militarily inside Democratic Republic of Congo territory since November. VOA Africa News Tonight host Yehehes Wuhib talked to Paul Montulia, a specialist on African affairs and China-Africa relations, about the findings and asked what it means for both the DRC and Rwanda.
This would be consistent with the pattern of military intervention that we have seen in the Congo over the last several years. One would even go all the way back to the removal of the former President Mobutu. Rwanda and Uganda as well, to a smaller extent Burundi, have been cited in numerous UN reports, such as this one, for launching military operations, especially in the eastern parts of the Democratic Republic of Congo. So what I would say, of course, the Rwandese government has denied these allegations, but what I would say is that it fits into a pattern that we have seen previously.
That was VOA's Yehehes Wuhib speaking to Paul Nantulia, a specialist on African affairs and China-Africa relations. Nigerian artist Isaac Ekele is part of an exhibition of portraiture in the western U.S. state of Colorado. VOA's Scott Stearns reports on his hyper-realistic drawings.
Isaac Ekele prides himself on the details. Using charcoal pencils, graphite pencils, and soft blending brushes, he layers his portraits from lighter to darker.
When I'm done having a perfect shade of the picture, then I start adding details, like the hair to be very realistic, the eyes, so that when someone sees it, he will think it's a picture, not a drawing. That's what I want to achieve.
Ekele's work is part of a portrait of a culture exhibit in the western U.S. city of Denver that includes fashion and dance. Curator Shanna Shelby says Ekele's skill elevates pencil drawing.
Maybe a single portrait of a single person would be very simple, but the way that he does it is just with incredible technique.
At home in the Nigerian capital Abuja, Ekele splits his time between personal projects and commissioned portraits. Of his work on exhibit in the United States, he told VOA he is most proud of My Mom's Prayer.
The prayers my mom gives me and all that, her encouragement ever since I lost my dad, and her sincere wishes for me to become something, great in future. Through her prayers and, support and backings, I've been able to, develop this determination.
The struggle came from children he saw in the market.
How they were suffering, and I saw one holding another, trying to give him food and something, and I just got that picture and I said, I'm going to replicate what I see, because I get my inspiration from my environment most times.
Breaking Loose is about empowering women.
The rope is already loosening up. It has to tell about the, gender inequality, how ladies before, they don't get the opportunity to speak in their nation, especially in Africa. Most times ladies are being kept quiet. They don't want them to participate.
Akele says he's encouraged by the public response.
Just want my audience to try to, to resonate with what I do, to try to reason the way I reason, you understand? That way they'll be able to understand my kind of drawing, because it's mostly built out of emotion.
In Denver, curator Shelby says it's emotion and effort that set Akele apart.
Sometimes we got caught up with time, right? Like maybe it takes too long to create that portrait. But the respect that I give Isaac is that he spends that time and he finishes the portrait, and they are personal to him, and the way that he makes them personal makes it personal to us too. And so we relate to that very deeply.
Akele's work is on display in the Colorado Capitol through the end of August. Scott Stearns, VOA News, Denver.
What a great talent. And to look at another talented artist, we turn now to our entertainment segment. Joining us is David Vendi, host of VOA's Africa Beat radio program. David, it's so good to see you. Welcome. You have a special guest with you today.
Yes, Lenore, thank you so very much. And it's so wonderful to be back here. And today, Lenore, I have a wonderful Sierra Leonean artist, Jay Sanko, who performs with so much energy. But I tell you, there is so much to his story that I want himself to talk about. Thank you very much for joining us in the studio today, Jay Sanko.
Thank you very much, Mr. Van.
Yeah, you did a song, I'm Alive. So let's go to that song, and you have a story behind that song. I understand you're having a little bit of problem with your health. Let's talk about that.
It all started from when I was 7 years old. I had an accident, which was really bad, and due to the lack of medical facility in Sierra Leone, they didn't know that my kidney were damaged, and because I didn't sick, but I break my leg and some other bones. So when I came to the United States in 2011, I was losing weight, and I was losing my energy. So I have to go see my primary doctor, and then they do some blood work.
And you got to know that you have problems with your kidney.
Yeah, they said
and you've been going through dialysis all this while.
My kidney were damaged, and so I started dialysis since 2016.
So how did you get into the music? Because I have seen you perform on stage, and you are so energetic. And then after that, you will tell me, hey, David, I am going for dialysis. I've been in dialysis for like 16, 17 hours. How did you go through all of that?
You should know, because, I grew up in a rough time in Sierra Leone during the war, and I was raised in a very strict Islamic home. So I wasn't raised like other kids that you would take to the park. I've never celebrated my birthday. The only two holidays we celebrate is Eid al-Adha and Eid al-Fitr. So it was a very strict home. So we don't do anything. Everything rather than those two holidays is a taboo. Okay. So music was the only place where I can get all those feelings for me to feel alive.
So now let's talk about this music, I'm Alive, because there's the video playing right now, but let's talk about I'm Alive. How did you come about this song, I'm Alive?
See, with having an underlying issue, being on dialysis for 5 years in May 2020, so when I caught Corona, I went through all these symptoms and I almost died. So there's a brother called Succulent. He always called me. He prayed for me on the phone because, he can't come visit me. So through this prayer and through these conversations, he keep telling me to say, I'm alive. You won't die. Keep saying it that you are alive. So I keep standing there and keep saying this word,
All
and
right,
that's how
I'll
this
be right
song
back with you. Let's just get a little bit of the video and listen.
But I tell God, thank you for my life. Thank you for me wife. Thank you for the people that will put on me life. And motor car burn me and not die. Kidney fail me and not die. Corona hold me and not die. The Lord where I deserve me, they are.
Jehovah, I tell you thank you. The name not upon me one day when don't die. Papa, I tell you thank you. The goodness of mercy, they follow me every day. Every day. It's not to you. Now I am for dead. I'm still alive. I'm alive. I'm alive. I'm alive. I'm still alive. Yes, alive. I'm alive.
Wow. Wow. That is beautiful for you to sing a song like that, I'm Alive. And you still keep going strong. You still keep producing songs. And you told me recently you also have another ailment.
Yeah, I caught peritonitis in this February that just passed.
But you're still alive?
I'm still alive.
All right. Well, I just want to thank you so very much. I hope that this will be a lesson to all of those who are watching you out there and seeing the struggles you're going through. But the music keeps you going, right?
Always.
Always. Well, thank you so very much, Jay Sanko, for being with us here in the studio at the Voice of America. That's all we have on our entertainment segment for today. And let me go over back to you, Leonard. Thank you so much for having us.
Oh my God, David, that was beautiful. And Jay Sanko is such an inspiration. I couldn't help but to dance a little bit. And that's our entertainment segment for today. And thank you again, David. David Vendi is the host of VOA's Africa Beat radio show. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, have a great weekend.
Papa God where you glorify for the life you give me in this dunya. This I was a blessing where they drop on my body every night and day. I just say go higher. I did eat some macolum, plenty money in my pocket. I this one go long. Then me say I not go better. Hey, you can take it. I come up on the poop poop poop. Thank you Lord, you don't do one for me. I'm not better, but say one way they not much worry. Ebola, Corona don't come, but you still come on me. Baba make I don't say you thank you.
Jehovah, I tell you thank you. Me name not upon me one day when don't die. Papa, I tell you thank you. The goodness of mercy, they follow me every day. Every day. It's not to you. Now I am for dead. I'm still alive. I'm alive. I'm alive. I'm alive. I'm still alive. Yes, alive. I'm alive. I'm alive. I'm a survivor.
Christian or Muslim, we all get for meets, Papa God one fine day. Corona now that same number. In you carry me anti-go, you carry me padigo, eh bro. If not for the love of Jesus Christ, eh. Oh, Corona for don't carry me, go, 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 go. If not for the mommy blessing, eh.